Hello, Stay. You think you know Stray Kids? You think because you've watched every V-Live, memorized every behind-the-scenes clip, and followed every comeback that you already understand what really goes on between these 8 guys? Think again. Because what JYP Entertainment themselves have revealed about the internal dynamics of Stray Kids is something that even the most hardcore stays weren't fully prepared for. We're not talking about fan theories. We're not talking about shipping content. We're talking about real, documented, on-record facts straight from the company that built them, trained them, and watched them grow from trainees into one of the biggest 4th-gen groups on the planet. Which member has a relationship with another that even surprised the staff? Which duo's bond is so intense it almost feels unreal? Which connection inside the group was something nobody saw coming, not even JYP himself? 7 facts, 7 levels of truth. And trust us by the time we hit. Number 1, your entire perspective on this group is going to shift. Let's get into it. Number 8, Lee Know. The member JYP admitted was the hardest to read, but the first one everyone runs to. If there's one Stray Kids member who's often misunderstood, even by the industry itself, it's Lee Know, Minho, Lee Minho. JYP Entertainment once openly admitted that Lee Know is the most difficult member to categorize within the group dynamic, not because he's problematic, but because his layers of personality are too complex to be put into one simple box. On the outside, Lee Know appears cold, sharp, and has an aura that makes people afraid. But inside the Stray Kids circle, it's a totally different story. JYP staff who have been with the group since their pre-debut era confirmed that Lee Know is the one the other members most often come home to when they need to be grounded, not a dramatic hug. Not a long motivational speech, but a steady, unwavering presence. What makes this fact even more interesting is Lee Know's own background. He's a former JYP backup dancer who auditioned for BTS before ultimately joining as a JYP trainee and joining Stray Kids. It wasn't a smooth journey, and that's precisely why Lee Know possesses a level of mental toughness that even JYP management recognizes as rare. JYP calls Lee Know the silent stabilizer of Stray Kids, someone who doesn't talk much about his feelings, but is always there when they need him most. Felix once called Lee Know an older brother who never says, "I'm here for you," but always proves it through his actions. And JYP made it clear, a group as strong as Stray Kids needs one person who never panics. Lee Know is that person. Number 7, IN. The youngest who made 8 strangers become a real family. Don't underestimate the role of the youngest. JYP Entertainment once openly stated that Yang Jonggin is the most unpredictable emotional factor in the Stray Kids dynamic. During the survival show, Jonggin was the youngest trainee to join the group, and JYP staff themselves admitted to being amazed, not by his talent, but by the way he naturally created a warm atmosphere in the group. During an internal JYP evaluation session, it was stated that IN's presence indirectly triggered protective instincts in all the older members. Bangchan began to take his leadership responsibilities more seriously. Lee Know, who was known to be cold on the outside, became the older brother figure who most often checked on Jonggin's well-being. Even Changbin, who has a strong, tough image, was caught often looking after Jonggin behind the scenes. JYP said that a solid group isn't just about chemistry on stage, but about who becomes the emotional anchor behind the scenes. And without realizing it, Jonggin became that person. He's not just the youngest, he's the reason these 8 feel like they have a real family, not just an idol group. Number 6, Seungmin. The member JYP admitted almost changed the entire group's direction. This is a rarely discussed fact, and that's precisely why it's all the more interesting. Seungmin Kim. Seungmin wasn't a trainee designed from the start for Stray Kids. JYP Entertainment itself once admitted in their internal documentation that Seungmin was initially directed down a different path, more of a solo artist or even an actor, rather than an idol group. But what makes this story extraordinary is the moment when the other Stray Kids members, especially Bangchan, collectively pointed out that the group's chemistry felt incomplete without Seungmin in it. JYP staff involved in the Stray Kids survival show confirmed that there were serious discussions about the group's composition, and Seungmin's name kept coming up not because of his vocal or dance skills, but because the way he interacted with the other members created a balance that was difficult to replace. Seungmin was the type of member who kept the atmosphere neither too heavy nor too out of control, and JYP themselves ultimately said that the decision to include Seungmin in the final lineup was one they were most grateful for, because without him, Stray Kids' character as a group might have felt very different from what we know today. Number 5. Felix, the member whose relationship with the group moved JYP staff to tears. If there's one behind-the-scenes story from Stray Kids that often leaves people in the dark, it's this one. Felix came from Australia, spoke with a different accent, and entered the harsh Korean trainee environment with one major challenge that rarely gets highlighted. He couldn't communicate fluently with the other members due to a real language barrier. It's not an exaggeration. Not for content, this was directly acknowledged by JYP in one of the group's travel documentation. The staff who accompanied Felix's training process confirmed that there were periods where Felix ate alone, practiced longer than the others because he didn't want to be left behind, and spent his nights learning Korean not from books, but from direct conversations with the other members who volunteered to sit with him. Bangchan, as a fellow member with a foreign background, became the first bridge. But what moved the JYP staff was when Hyunjin, who was still struggling with the pressure of training at the time, was the one who most consistently accompanied Felix, learning to speak Korean every night. JYP said Felix's relationship with the group is more than just a professional one. It's proof that human connections can transcend language, distance, and culture, and Stray Kids is living proof of that. Number 4. Han, the member JYP called the emotional core that almost broke and saved Stray Kids at the same time. Han Ji-sung is a name inseparable from Stray Kids' musical identity, but what JYP Entertainment revealed about Han's relationship with the group goes much deeper than just creative contributions. JYP once openly called Han the emotional engine of Stray Kids, not because he's the most stable, but quite the opposite. Han is the member who is most open about his struggles, most vocal about his fears, and most often expresses doubts, and that's what paradoxically makes the entire group stronger. JYP staff admitted that there was a critical moment in Stray Kids' journey where industry pressures almost broke the group's internal dynamics, and Han was the first to break the silence by honestly saying, "This is too hard," not as a sign of weakness, but as a signal that finally opened the space for all the other members to be honest about their own conditions. From there, according to JYP, Stray Kids' internal communication completely changed, becoming more open, more raw, more real. Changbin once said in a session that Han was the reason he never felt alone under pressure. Lee No called Han the most unpredictable but most trustworthy person. And JYP himself said the group that survives isn't the one that's always strong, but the one with one person who dares to be honest first. Han is that person. Number 3. Changbin, the member whose bond with the group JYP said defied every industry standard. If you think Changbin Seo, Changbin is only known for his rap speed and tough onstage image, then you've only seen half the story. JYP Entertainment once made a rather surprising statement about Changbin, that among all the Stray Kids members, Changbin was the most difficult to reshape by the Korean entertainment industry system, not because he was difficult to manage, but because his identity as part of the group had been so deeply ingrained since day one. JYP staff who accompanied Stray Kids during their debut era confirmed that Changbin was the member who was most consistently emotionally present for the others, even during the most exhausting times. There are stories circulating within JYP that when some members were at their lowest points mentally, especially when the post-debut pressure was brutal, Changbin was the one who quietly came, sat down, and said nothing. But his presence was enough to make the others feel like they weren't alone. JYP calls this a rare kind of loyalty in the entertainment industry where competition between members often outweighs solidarity. Hyunjin once shared that there was a dark moment in his career where Changbin was the only one who never once questioned his abilities. Bangchan himself admitted that Changbin is the invisible pillar of Stray Kids, a pillar that isn't always visible, but without it, the entire structure would feel shaky. And JYP is emphatic. Changbin's relationship with Stray Kids is more than just a contract or professional one. It's proof that there are members who were born not just to be idols, but to be a permanent part of something much bigger than themselves. Number 2. Hyunjin. The member JYP confessed represents the soul of Stray Kids in ways nobody expected. Hyunjin is a name almost always associated with visuals and art. But what JYP Entertainment has revealed about Hyunjin's relationship with Stray Kids as a whole goes far beyond the visual member label often attached to him. JYP has explicitly named Hyunjin as the member who best embodies the collective soul of Stray Kids, not because he's the most vocally or decisively dominant, but because the way Hyunjin absorbs and projects the group's energy to the outside world is something that can't be coached or forced. Senior JYP staff have admitted that during the controversial period Hyunjin faced in early 2021, when he was forced to take a hiatus from group activities, the emotional toll on all members was far greater than what was shown to the public. Bangchan was seen struggling to maintain a positive atmosphere within the group on several occasions, and other members have acknowledged a palpable emptiness, not only on stage, but in their daily lives. JYP called Hyunjin's return one of the most emotional moments in the group's history, not because it was dramatic, but because it was natural. All the members reacted as if a part of themselves had returned. Lino once described Hyunjin as someone who changes the color of a room just by walking in, and JYP confirmed that description was not hyperbole. In every creative evaluation session, Hyunjin's contributions always serve as a reference point for the other members to gauge the group's artistic direction. JYP has been clear in stating Hyunjin isn't just the face of Stray Kids. He's the mirror through which Stray Kids see themselves most clearly. Number 1. Bangchan. The member JYP said was never just a leader, he was the reason Stray Kids still exists today. Here it is, the most anticipated point, and believe me, this isn't just standard praise for a responsible leader. JYP Entertainment once made a remarkably weighty confession about Bangchan Christopher Bang that without this one man's decisions and determination, Stray Kids as we know them today would likely never exist in its current form. It's not an exaggeration. It's not marketing. This is a fact, confirmed directly from JYP. When Stray Kids was still a survival show, there was a critical point where the decision regarding the final composition of the group was almost completely changed. Several names who are now permanent members were in very precarious positions. And Bangchan, who by then had a relatively secure position as leader, was the most vocal in maintaining the overall chemistry of the group in front of management. JYP staff admitted that Bangchan once walked into an internal meeting and very seriously stated that the current version of Stray Kids without balance wasn't the Stray Kids he wanted to lead. That's not the behavior of a typical idol. It's the act of someone who understands that a group isn't just a collection of talent, but a fragile human ecosystem that must be nurtured. JYP himself, in an interview, called Bangchan the most mature leader they've ever produced, not because Bangchan is perfect, but because he chose the group above all else before it even officially formed. Lino, Han, Felix, Changbin, Seungmin, Hyunjin, and I have all, at one point or another, cited Bangchan as the reason they can still stand on stage with their heads held high. And JYP confidently stated Bangchan wasn't a leader appointed because he was the most senior. He was a leader born out of caring the most. 8 years together, hundreds of stages, millions of stays worldwide. And it all started with one person who chose not to give up, not for himself, but for 7 others who may not even realize how important that decision was. And those are 7 unique facts about the Stray Kids members' relationships, according to JYP himself, and if you think it's all about idols and the entertainment industry, you're dead wrong. This is a story about 8 people who found each other in a harsh system, and chose to stay together not because of a contract, but because they trust each other in a way that's hard to even describe. Stray Kids isn't a perfect group, but that's exactly why they're real. That's exactly why they endure. And that's precisely why every stay around the world isn't just a fan, they're part of this journey. If this video resonated with you, leave a comment below with your favorite member's name and tell us one thing that made you fall in love with Stray Kids in the first place. Because the best community isn't the biggest, but the most honest. See you in the next video, and as always, stay curious, stay real.